Hello, everybody. My name is Wilton, and I am here to talk to you about stock screening on Fintel. Um, I'm going to go ahead and fire up the chat on the right-hand side. I don't use the Q&A very much because the chat I find is useful. Can you first all confirm that you can hear me correctly? Can you hear me okay on the chat? Just make a little ping in the chat. Okay, great. So I see somebody there. Awesome. This is going to go, it's for about, it probably will not go for an hour. It doesn't really take a full hour to talk about the screener. So, I will basically kind of go through the basics of using the stock screener. Has anybody never used a stock screener before? Like literally has no idea what this is? If so, ping yourself, ping in the chat, okay? So I can kind of know how to pace ourselves. All right. So, and is there anybody here that is familiar with stock screening and filtering and has used kind of tools in the past? Okay. So it's pretty new, it sounds like. Okay. So the idea of a stock screener is you're basically trying to filter companies, right? So you have some criteria that you would like to be able to find companies that match. So for example, you might say, I want to find companies that are not traded on the OTC exchange, and I want to find companies that have a price that's higher than $1. And I want to find companies that have a PE ratio of some certain range, and so forth. And simply going around and looking at every single company to find those criteria would take a long time. And so the idea of a stock screener is that you can enter in your criteria, and the screener, you can basically screen the market on these criteria. That's the idea. So, and it can be a very powerful product. And so the Fintel stock screener is not a simple stock screener. It's very sophisticated and complex. And so, but with a little bit of work and a little bit of effort, you can see how it becomes very powerful. So I'm going to fire up my screen share real quick here. And desktop one. And let's see what we have here. Can you guys see my desktop now? Let me see if I can pull up the chat window. Chat. Okay. Let me know that you can see my screen here. Just somebody give me a heads up here that you can see this. You should see my dashboard right now. Is that right? Okay, great. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the dashboard, but I will do one thing, because there's a lot of times people are really new and they want to know how to change things. If you want to add something to your dashboard, you can go here and type tickers. If you want to unremove stuff from your dashboard, you go down to settings, you go to stock lists, and then here's your follow list. And you can just click on this X here to get rid of something, okay? A lot of people get confused around this and don't understand how to get rid of items on your dashboard. And so that's an important part of managing your overall dashboard. And obviously, don't take the presence of a company on my dashboard as being a recommendation to buy or sell. I follow a lot of companies that I think are terrible investments, but it doesn't mean I don't want to follow them. So this is just, kind of my particular view right now, and it changes all the time. So don't take any don't feel like this is advice. And I'm obviously not a financial advisor, so don't take anything I say as financial advice. So let's go to the stock screener. So if you go to this button up here and you click on advanced screener, actually let's look at the sample screens first. This might be interesting. And if you go down here to like NCAP screen, what this does is basically, this is a screen that I created, and it basically mimics the famous Benjamin Graham formula for finding net current asset value stocks. And if you look over here to the right where it says rules, there's 3 lines here, okay? And what it says basically is take the current assets minus the total liabilities and multiply it by 2/3. And if that number is greater than the market cap, then you're going to, then this is true. And so what happens then is that the screen will allow that company that matches true on this to make it through the filter. Okay, so basically each of these rules is a filtering rule. So the screener is going to go through and it's going to take each of these rules in succession and apply it to every company in the US stock market. And for all of the companies where these result in a true statement, it's going to include them. Now, price is funny because it doesn't have an expression here, so it's always going to be true. This is how you can kind of include a company or a value in the report without actually putting an expression on it. So if you go down here, what this means is that if you were to take the assets current here and subtract the liabilities from this, and you compare it to the market cap, and you multiply it by 0.66, then this results in a true expression, and evaluates to true. And also the market cap is greater than 1 million, okay? So that's the idea. Now, one of the things that's powerful about the Fintel stock screener is that you can actually create rules like this. Most stock screeners, if you go looking around, are kind of like point and click type tools. And I'm gonna go on over to the advanced screener right now. Most of them are point and click, where you kind of like, you're gonna have a box up here, and you're gonna say, you're gonna click on a thing like PE, and it will say, greater than 25%, or I'm sorry, not greater than 25%. You would say PE, and you would specify, less than 10%, between 10 and 15%, between 15 and 20%, that kind of thing. In this case, you can actually put an equation in here where the left-hand side of the comparison operator and the right-hand side of the comparison operator can actually be variables from the balance sheet or the financials. And that's really kind of the differentiator that we do here. Instead of just being able to say stuff like this, which any stock screener can pretty much do, we can actually put variables in here, okay? So is that clear? Did I explain that? It's kind of hard to explain, I think, sometimes, and I'm starting to get a little bit better at it. But does anybody have any questions about this so far? No? Okay. So I'm going to walk you through just some of the things that it can do, okay? If you want to know the complete list of terms, you're going to go to here and you're going to click on this, and you're going to say open link in new tab, and it's going to show you all the terms. Now, I know that there is not a lot of descriptions around here, and we're working on this. We're actually working on a full major overhaul of the screener right now, and it's going to be pretty significant, okay? And it's going to be very much improved. But these are all the terms that you can use to put into the equations. So for example, lots of people are interested in short interest these days. One of the things that I think is important to look at with short interest is to take a look at the short interest as a percent of the float. So if you wanted to do something like that, you could say short interest percent of float is greater than 50%, okay? And let me come down here. I'm gonna get rid of all these other, I'm gonna cut those out, and I'm gonna just leave this one line here. And I put a little semicolon at the end because I want to demarcate this line from the others. And I click on Get Results, and it's going to, how did I get to the screen in terms page? Right here, okay? And then I basically right-click on it, and I open it up in a new tab. Okay, here's the terms right here. So I'm going to cancel this, but basically what you're seeing here is all the companies that have a short interest percentage of float is greater than 50%, okay? And that's how it basically works. You put in an expression here, and it's going to take this expression and it's going to apply it to every company that it has data for. And if this expression evaluates to true, then it's going to return it in your list. Now let's go back to the original piece here that I had. And I'm going to kind of walk you through this because this is really kind of indicative. It's a good, I've tried to stuff this initial page with all of the kind of sample terms that you might need to understand. A lot of people don't want to have OTC stocks in their results. And so what you can do here is you can say exchange does not equal OTC. If you want to exclude Amex, you can do this as well. And you'll see that Amex gets excluded. Each of these lines, each of these expressions is an and in terms of calculating this. So this, in order for a company to be displayed on the results, all of these must evaluate to true. So the exchange cannot be the OTC, and the exchange cannot be the Amex, and the assets minus the liabilities times 0.95 must be greater than the market cap, and the market cap must be greater than 100 million. Price must be greater than 1, and volume doesn't have an expression, so it always evaluates to true. That's how you can show a value in the result, in the report, in the final results without actually screening on it. And the revenue growth must be greater than 5%. So that's revenue growth for the last annual. Okay. So all of these must evaluate to true in order for something to show up here. How to set price min and max in general with, okay. So how to set price min and max. So here's the price min, price is greater than 1, price is less than 20. Okay, that's how you find a range right here. So I can get rid of this. Price is less than 1, price is greater than price is greater than 1, and price is less than 20. If I say get results, okay, then it's going to go through and it's going to show me all those results. So that's how you do a set price min and a set price max. Okay, that's how you do any kind of min and max. Okay, I can do the same thing with market cap. Okay, 2 billion. We do automatically look at these M's and B's and convert them to billions and millions automatically. We'll also take a percentage like this and convert it to the actual numerical form for you. So you could say revenue growth is greater than 5%, or you could say revenue growth is greater than 0.05, and that's an equivalent term here, okay? Questions so far? If you wanted to go look at companies that had a lot of insider trading, I'm going to go to my complete list of search terms. Let's look at insider buying. If you say my insider, let's see if we can find companies that have a whole bunch of insiders that are all buying. So one of the ways to look at this is the insider net buyer count. And what this term is basically, we take the total number of insiders in the last 90 days, okay? And we count up the number of insiders that were buying. We also count up the number of insiders that were selling. And we subtract those numbers. We subtract the ones that are selling from the ones that are buying, and we get the insider net buyer count. So if we go back over here to our stock screener, and we say insider net buyer count is greater than 5, we can find all the companies that had at least 5 insiders, 5 more insiders than buying than selling in the market. And so if you're trying to find companies that have a lot of insider conviction, this is one good way to do that, okay? So here we go. So here's a company where we had a whole bunch of insider buying across the board here. Pretty exciting stuff, right? You can also look at insider buying, insider net buyer shares volume over float. So here's a situation where we're taking the total number of shares that were bought by insiders in the last 90 days, and we're dividing it by the float, okay? So let's just say 1%, just for giggles here, because I don't know what this is going to look like. Okay, so here we have all the companies that have a significant amount of float being bought by insiders, or at least more than 1%. Okay, questions about this so far? There's some other things you can do here. You could say exchange equal, you can do an or, for example, or exchange equals NASDAQ. Okay. So yes, you can do a divide operator. So you could say, you can create your own expressions here. So this is an or. You could say assets divided by debt is greater than 1. Interest income is a parameter. Yes, I don't know. Let me just see here. If we say interest income, I will look to see. There should be interest income should be reported. I'm not quite sure why it wouldn't be here, but I will look to see if I can find out where that is, if it's available. Some of these, the total debt for the most recent quarter. It's a good question. Hang on a second. I'm getting a call right now. There are several debt data, such as liabilities, long-term debt. What is the difference between, and which one represents the total debt for the most recent? So the total debt for the most recent quarter should be debt. Let's see. Total long-term debt. It should be debt. I can confirm that with you, but and just to be clear, this information comes from just so you understand where these terms come from. They come from the 10Q and the 10K filings. If you go look at the SEC XBRL forms, which I don't suggest anybody needs to do that really, these terms are all defined in their filings, in the definitions for the XBRL data. I will go look and see if I can figure out which one of these it is, but I believe the answer to your question is debt. In terms of the questions about why is it different, I can't answer your question about why it's different. I know there's a lot of different data sources. Sometimes companies normalize them. And so, but I can't speak to why it's different than finance in the Wall Street Journal. In terms of make expressions only valid for the last day, so I'm not sure I understand your question. The screener actually uses the most recent data. So if you were to say something like price, price is greater than 1, that's looking at the end of day closing price for the last day. Okay. So I'm not sure what you're asking here. Some people have asked about being able to pull in data from prior days. Okay, so they want to be able to say stuff like, let me compare to the most recent end of day price to the price from a month ago. Okay, and so we can't do that right now, but one proposal that we're looking at in terms of this renovation is to be able to say things like price, from today, or price is going to be price from 5 days ago, at least 5% higher, right? So if we wanted to say, let's find the companies where the current price is 5% higher than the price 5 days ago, then we might be able to say something like this. So this is one of the things that we're looking at. Yes, so revenue growth quarterly. So when in this renovation, we're going to be probably licensing financial data that's going to come in a little bit easier format to work with than the XBRL data. And when we do that, you're going to be able to get, revenue growth and on a quarterly basis. You're going to be able to get all the growth figures on a quarterly basis. You're going to be able to get growth figures on an annual basis, and you're also going to be able to get TTM numbers as well. We don't really provide TTM numbers because the XBRL data doesn't provide that. So we're excited about that. I personally like to look at TTM numbers whenever I'm doing my financial research, and that's a limitation that we have right now. So these are good suggestions and good thoughts. So are there any other questions about kind of using the screener here, or terms or expressions that I have not covered yet? Because I'll be honest, we're kind of at the end of what I have to say. I can talk a little bit more about the terms if you want, but really the goal here was to just try to present some basic functionality, to show how to use the editor, and to make sure that everybody understood that you need to put a semicolon after the fact, and that you can put equations in here. But besides that, I don't have a whole lot more to say about this. Can it work as a gap scanner? Can you explain what that means as a gap scanner? Also, can I analyze one stock or a few stocks? I don't know what that means, but can I analyze one stock or a few stocks in a list? So can you explain those questions to me? I think when you say a gap scanner, you're trying to find companies that like gapped in the last day. So we don't have that yet, but it's something that we will have. It would be something like this: price change is greater than 5% or something like that. But yeah, by giving one ticker, can I get data of the? You can't. Is there a way to get a final list of all sectors that can be used in the query? So you can't give one ticker to get a data of the company. That's not something that this is really designed to do. I mean, I guess you could say that. So I guess we could build something that says something like this, right? But it doesn't really do anything like that. That wouldn't. I mean, the goal of this is to try to look at a cross-sectional, slice of the data. So simply specifying the ticker doesn't really provide a lot of value, but it's something that we can look at. I'm not sure what the use case would be for this. How can you find a list of all sectors that can be used in the queries? It's a good question. If you go take a look at the industry browser here, then we basically use SIC codes for that. So that would be kind of where you would look for the sectors. Is there a way to obtain the list of sectors using a list of ticker symbols? You want EP, so like, I want EPS by quarter of a company. How do I get it? Well, you could do this. You could say Tesla, and then you could say, let's see, Tesla Motors, and then you could go to, we provide charts here, earnings per share. Here's Tesla's reported EPS. Now, again, this is one of these things where this data comes straight from the XBRL filings, and so they can change the way they do this. It's like they might report EPS basic one time and then diluted the next time. So here it is diluted, EPS, earnings per share diluted, as of the September 9th, they reported 27 cents for the quarter. Here's the basic, 32 cents. Can you see things about warrants? I mean, we do have information on warrants, but I don't know that like you would get that from the screener necessarily. I mean, if you wanted to do a search for like, I don't know, but like you can do a, I'm not quite sure what you would say here, but like, I'm trying to think of a company that's got warrants, but like CCIV warrants. And let's just see if they have anything in here. I mean, I guess we could probably build a way to browse warrants, because we certainly have warrants in here. We certainly have asset classes in here. If you go look at the SPAC list, for example, you can see that there are going to be warrants in here. So like any ticker with a 5-digit ticker, it's got a W on the end, is a warrant. So here's Ajax 1 Redeemable Warrants. You can see who owns that here. So I mean, warrants are basically stock options, right? So at the end of the day, if you find a company that you like, and if you see it's got warrants, then it's going to show up. Most of the time, if you go look at a company, we'll try to show you any related stuff that we find. So here's Alyssa Energy Acquisition Company. We know, for example, there is a warrant related to this, and these are units related to it. So you can click on this and see kind of who owns that. We're a little bit off the kind of topic right now, but I want to kind of come back here. Anybody else have any more questions about the screener? And have I answered questions so far? Is there a sort option? So, okay, look, we're going to add a sort option to this thing, but we don't have it quite yet, unfortunately. This is going to go, and I'll actually make this a priority. We can actually do a sort option on this resulting table long before we do a renovation. In the future, we're going to be able to say things like sort by revenue growth, and then limit like the top 15, or the top 25% of that. Okay, we can't export to CSV right now, and there's some tricky licensing issues around that. Most of the data that we have right now doesn't come with licensing issues. We kind of build our own data sets, and so it would be okay to export some of that data, but a lot of the data that we have and that we're going to be getting doesn't allow us to provide downloads because it's just the way it is, right? So I do recognize the value in being able to export to CSV, and we're going to try to figure out a way to do what we can, but you're going to find out that it's not going to be as useful as you would like, simply because we would have to pull out a lot of this stuff. So we get the data from a lot of places. Most of all the accounting data comes from the SEC right now, the XBRL filings. And like I said, there's not a lot of, the SEC does not enforce kind of standards, on what need to be able, what numbers or what names people need to be able to use in these accounting statements. So you find a lot of variation. The short interest data comes from the exchanges, the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, and we get other data from IEX. We have an API, and the data that we are allowed to kind of share, we put in the API. If you haven't seen the API yet, you can go up here to features. You can go to the API and Developer Hub, and you can go to see the documentation, and we have a full, documentation here for API if you want to use Python interface. Don't screen scrape the site. It's it's a real pain. We have bot detectors, and you'll get blocked, and it's a real nightmare to kind of fix that. We have a lot of people that try to screen scrape the data. It gets us in trouble with our providers, and we can't allow that. But we do have an API, and we make it available to paid members for personal use only, and we have rate limiting on it to prevent the server from crashing from lots of people using it. So we do want to accommodate people who want to use Python or other programming languages, and we do the best we can here to try to accommodate that without basically getting in trouble with our providers. Is that helpful? Besides file dates, can we know the actual trade time under 13F, 13D? Okay, so the answer to your question is unfortunately no. 13, okay, so we're getting a little bit off the reservation here, but I'm happy to continue answering questions here. The 13F filings are basically required of every company that has over $100 million in assets under management, and they're required to file 45 days after the end of every calendar quarter. And what that means is that they have to file a report that shows all of their holdings as of the last day of the quarter. So if a fund has 1,000 shares of Tesla on December 31st, that's what they file. Now, during the fourth quarter, they could have owned 50 million shares. They could have owned 0 shares. They could have bought and sold 50 million shares or 0 shares. It doesn't matter. Whatever they have on the last day of the quarter is what they have to report. And there's actually an interesting academic study that shows this concept of window dressing, which is companies that do really badly in a quarter, and do really poorly, oftentimes will sell all of their poorly performing shares, all of their kind of bad decisions, and buy a bunch of like really nice looking companies like Tesla and so forth, and Apple, just days before the quarter ends, so that whenever they report their filings and they report their holdings, it looks like they actually have a good portfolio. People who are analyzing them will go, oh, not sure why they didn't perform very well, but at least they have some good stocks. And so there's actually a real thing around this. There's been some studies around window dressing and so forth. So there's no way to tell what the actual trade dates are for 13F filings. The same goes for import filings, which are another kind of filing that is basically done on a quarter. The 13Ds and the 13Gs, 13D and 13G are similar in the sense that they're beneficial ownership filings. Most governments in the world want to know who owns what in order to prevent money laundering and undue influence and stuff like that. And so if you're a company, or if you're any individual or any entity that owns more than 5% of a publicly traded company in the United States, you have to file a 13D or a 13G. According to my understanding, a 13D means that you are an activist investor and you intend to try to influence management's decisions, either by doing some kind of like proxy battle or trying to get a board seat or something like that. These are typically the guys you would think of as activist investors, like Carl Icahn and so forth. When Carl Icahn takes 5% of the company, he has to file a 13D and announce that he's got a large percentage of the company and he's going to try to influence management. 13Ds typically are required within 10 days after acquiring 5%. You can have 2%, you can have 3%, you don't have to file a 13D, but as soon as you have a 5%, you have to file a 13D. Now, if you file a 13D and then you lower your holdings down to 1%, you still have to file a 13D until you're out, because you already kind of reached that threshold, right? So you see a lot of 13Ds that only have 1% owners. These are people that had gone up and now they're going down. In terms of 13Gs, these are passive investors. So you think about like Vanguard and BlackRock have these big index funds. Vanguard has so much money that they actually own more than 5% of most companies in the United States. And so for almost every company you're going to see a 13G from Vanguard. Because of the scale of their operation and because they don't actually try to influence management, the SEC does not require them to file regularly whenever they make changes. They only have to file annually on February 15th. So if you were hanging around on February 15th or February 14th this last year or any year, you'll see 25,000 13Gs being filed by Vanguard and BlackRock, representing their positions in every public trade company in the United States. So that's my little, sidetrack on 13Ds and 13Gs and 13Fs. Is that helpful? A lot of people ask questions about these. I'm not sure how much people actually know about these deadlines. People oftentimes ask us how current is our data. Our current is as current as the SEC's data. We ping the SEC website every 60 seconds. We get it as fast as anybody. It's just that a lot of times the filings are lagged, and so people sometimes complain that our data is stale, but it's not. It's just the way the filings are required. Okay, any other questions then? I'm happy to continue answering questions if you guys have them. It's 9:35. I don't have anything else to say about the stock screener, but I'm happy to continue answering questions if anybody has any. Okay, 2 more, please. Let's hear them. I'll go ahead and mention insider trading as well. Insider data is required. Insider trades are required within 2 days. if you are a 10% holder of a company, then you are considered an insider, which is why you see a lot of funds will only, and when you look at these 13Ds and you look at 13Gs, you'll see that a lot of companies only hold 9.9% of a company. It's because they don't want to become an insider because of the filing requirements are so much more rigorous. Can the Python API do those kinds of structured searches like you showed? No, not yet. It's possible that we could actually do a Python interface to the stock screener. And we've actually had somebody ask about that before. And so we would consider that. Can we search for effective S3 filing? And what does that mean? If you want to go search for a filing, you can go up to your SEC forms, and you can say S3. Let's see what we have here. I can click on S3. Okay, and here you have registration statements. Okay, here are all the registrations. I'm not quite sure why these names aren't coming through correctly. It's something I can work on. The other thing you can do, if you want to get an alert, like this is all the recent S3s. The other thing you can do is we can actually create an alert for you. If you go take a look at the alerts, okay, these are company alerts. So if you subscribe or if you follow a company, you'll get automatically subscribed to what we call our curated kind of core alerts. And those include things like 8Ks, 10Qs, and 10Ks. We do actually send out S1s, things like that. But we also have global alerts here where we can will send you an email anytime any company on the market makes that. And so we do a global alert for 425 merger prospectus. We also do one for S1 filings. We can also do S3 statements, S3 filings as well, S3. So the question is, search for companies that have filed S3 recently and have certain market cap and price under 27. Okay, yeah. So look, this idea of being able to search on for a recent filing continues to appear. It continues to come up. And I might have been kind of dismissive about it at the very beginning when I first started hearing about these ideas, because it's not very clear to me how that would work. But people keep asking about it, and I think I'm beginning to think that this is actually a really good idea. So I think what you're asking me, let me just see if I'm correct here. If I have this, if I come over here and say, let me go to my screen and see if I can pull this up. I'm going to just kind of spitball here idea. So something like filing S3 greater than 90 days from now, like, is that something like that? Would that be okay? And then market cap is greater than 100, something like that. Less than 90 days. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how best to do this, but I think I understand what you're asking me to do. Lots of people have asked about this. Yeah. Okay. You want to be able to search for recent filings in the screener rather than in the SEC browser, right? Because you want to combine it with other parameters. Is that what I understand? Okay. So, okay. Let me think about that. I think it's something that can be done. We certainly have the data, right? So if we can't do it, then why wouldn't we? Okay. So I will. I'll think about how best to do this. Okay. Anything else then? Okay. I want to do some thinking on how to do the filings, and then if there's nothing else, then I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. This has been a lot of fun. It's always informative for me. I love the ideas, and I try to, we obviously try to do them whenever we can. So, look, if there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Thanks again for showing up. I always appreciate your attention and your questions, and it was a lot of fun for me today, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay, so take care, and I'll see you again soon. All right.